welcome back to the Critic-Verse. Today, we're going to be doing another breakdown and review for Season 1, Episode 4 of Wolfpack, titled Fear and Pain, which is a reference to the news broadcast line which Danny repeated in Episode 1 on why animals reacting the way they do in this disaster. Before we get to the episode, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. Now, onward to the episode. We start off with a montage of the wildfires ravaging on. Then, with a narration from Investigator Ramsey, we transition to her office where she is questioning Austin, one of the other bus suspects. His mother tells him to tell the investigator what he saw, what's been keeping him up at night. And he starts to say something, and Investigator Ramsey asks him whether he saw someone on the highway. He then says, not someone, but something. When Austin starts to describe the creature, Kristen helps to fill in the blanks and sounds like she's seen as well, then tells Austin to turn around and he sees a board filled with drawings similar to the creature. When she starts describing it, we get flashbacks to Austin on the highway with the very same bus driver whose job he was threatening for not letting him off the bus. Investigator Ramsey tries to rationalize with Austin that all of the victims are experiencing some sort of mass hysteria brought on by the trauma they all suffered from on that day, and that what they really saw was a big-horned ram running at them, and not really a 7-foot-tall monster with razor-sharp claws and fangs. This angers Connor because he asks if it wasn't the monster that he thought he saw, then what killed Connor, which confuses Kristen because they're still looking for Connor. And she asks Austin, does he know something about what happened to Connor? To which Austin replies, why doesn't she ask the ram? And then he leaves her office in anger. We then go back to the Briggs residence after the events of last week's episode, and the teens are all waiting for Garrett to come back inside. After Garrett comes back inside and notes that Officer Miller is nowhere to be found, Blake and Everett question their safety, to which Luna confirms that they're all still new to this, so they have no idea if they're safe after the moon comes up. Harlan and Luna note that the Alpha isn't actually trying to kill them, but is protecting them, and that they are all part of its pack, but Garrett says they still don't know what it really wants. He also says they have to figure out how to keep themselves safe and how to protect them, to which he goes into detail about the silver bullet they all keep staring at. Garrett then goes on to explain that silver is actually terrible for a bullet, as the metal is less dense and less accurate when fired. He also made about 50 rounds that he had no intention of using after Luna asked him. He explains that he found Luna and Harlan as cubs and he had no idea what they would be like, a fact which surprises Everett and Blake, and asked by Harlan if he made the bullets in case they ever turn back, but also asked by Everett if they're going to turn into what the Alpha is. To which Garrett says he has no idea, but he feels like they're going to find out. The next scene we get is Investigator Ramsey heading back to the site of Connor's disappearance as she tries to recreate what he might have been feeling in the moment by lying on the same ground, pretending her leg is stuck in the fence. After she gets lost in the moment, she is then startled by the appearance of a ram, which collapses from a huge slash on the side of its body. Everett is then shown back in bed, recalling his conversation with Garrett and Blake on the drive home. They have to go to school and act like everything is normal, which Everett asks how is that possible. Garrett tells them to stop answering the mysterious caller, to which Everett questions why if the caller is trying to help them, but Garrett isn't so sure that the caller is trying to help them. Blake is then shown back at the motel, recalling how Luna wrote her number on her arm in permanent marker, so she couldn't wash it off. But if she needs something and she's near a phone, to give her a call, which does comfort Blake. And I can already hear the shippers just calling out Luna's name and how they're endgame. Back at the Briggs residence, Harlan is about to go out, and Luna tells him that Garrett said it's not safe outside, to which Harlan reminds her that there's a weapon in the house that can kill them, and he's going out. Harlan heads back to the club he frequents. He spots Cyrus, the new guy from last episode, and they lock eyes, but Harlan breaks first and turns away. Harlan then begins to experience a euphoric feeling on the dance floor as his eyes begin to glow and he just dances his problems away. Back at the Briggs residence, Luna begins to look out her window to see a little girl in a white dress heading to their stables, and the little girl turns around only for her face to be covered in blood. Luna then begins to remember the little girl reaching out for the white horse she's been seeing. All the while, her eyes are glowing. In the morning, as Everett exits his room, he overhears his parents arguing about taking him to school. His mother recounts that he was grounded, snuck out, and somehow found his way home. He can find his way to school on his own. It's hard to tell whether Everett is using his wolf hearing because his parents are very far away, or if they're just being loud and sound carries in their house. We do learn from Everett's mom that Everett has 2 older siblings that are already out of the house, that never misbehaved like this, and that she doesn't hate Everett, but hates the teenager that he's become, to which his father notes she didn't love him as a preteen or as a child. His mother states Everett was a difficult child that screamed for 4 months, to which his father retorts that he had colic, which is when a baby or child experiences a period of distress, but his mother notes that even after that, Everett has been a lot to handle. After hearing that, Everett takes off on his own. Everett is then shown walking into class where he is confronted by Austin asking if he has some additional help in getting to sleep. Just then, Blake walks into class and Everett stops in his tracks almost as if he's mesmerized by her. Austin then grabs his attention once more, and Everett does agree to give him some additional help getting to sleep, but he says in exchange for this help getting to sleep, Austin has to do something for him. He has to tell him what he really saw on the highway after last week's episode when Austin denied seeing anything. They are then greeted by a sub who starts to hand out a test that they didn't take after they were removed from school because of the fires. We also see that Tia and Phoebe are in the same class, but the empty chair in the room belongs to Connor. All of the bus suspects are in that same history class. Garrett is driving with his fellow park ranger that is assisting on the arson task force and giving Garrett info. She tells Garrett Ramsey suspects the kids, but doesn't say why. Garrett believes the guy on the phone is the actual arsonist, the one that keeps calling Blake and Everett. This part reveals that his partner knows all about Harlan and Luna, and that she also has a box of silver bullets, but Garrett doesn't want to blindside the twins with any new information while they're still mad at him. And he still thinks the man on the phone is the suspect that he's looking for, but that man is also looking for the alpha as well. Next, the twins are at school, and Luna asks Harlan if he remembers running to the woods to meet up with Everett and Blake that first night, theorizing that they didn't have any control in going there. She asks Harlan why didn't he kill the alpha, saying he had the rifle and the shot, which Harlan then uses Everett's proximity and how dark it was as an excuse for missing. But Luna doubts this. Harlan hears Luna's heart beating faster, and she notices his hand is shaking. Cut to the history class where Everett and Blake are, and Blake notices Everett's hand shaking and that hers is too. Everett goes to the restroom to calm down, and Blake follows him to try and help. The twins show up as well, and conflict builds between Everett and Harlan. Everett is experiencing an anxiety attack, which is giving the other members of the pack panic attacks. Harlan doesn't understand why Everett is having an anxiety attack, Everett re-explains their predicament, and it just pisses Harlan off more, and he warns Everett to stop saying werewolf. Everett doesn't listen and starts to sort of mock Harlan, and in anger, Harlan throws Everett against the bathroom wall, lifting him off the ground and breaking the mirror behind him. They all notice Harlan has fangs and wonder if this is what's supposed to happen. They all come together, transform into monsters, and start killing people. Everett notes he doesn't want to kill people. Harlan says they might not have a choice. Blake says they can't be around each other. Luna doesn't like that, but Everett notes that wolves hunt in packs. Blake says she doesn't want to be in a pack, that she's not a wolf. And they all just start to leave each other, to Luna's dismay. Back at the station, Garrett is in Ramsey's office, surveying the board with all the werewolf fan art. She questions why Garrett crossed the fire line, to which he chokes up to being forced to because of all the smoke around him. She asked if this is about Harlan and Elizabeth, to which he corrects her, saying Luna, because that's what she prefers. But he says this isn't about them. It's about him wanting to join the task force. She says they already have a park ranger acting as liaison, Prisha Ahmad. Briggs knows this already, but says he has more knowledge on this subject, to which Ramsey wants to test that. Ramsey takes Garrett to the fridge of a morgue and shows him the ram that died in front of her car. He jokes smoke inhalation is what killed the animal until he sees the claw mark on the ram's stomach. It reminds him of the claw marks on his truck. He then names the cause by its species, identifying it, which in layman's terms is just the California black bear, which Prisha already said, trying to gear Ramsey away from the supernatural. Ramsey is not impressed till Briggs says she's trying to find a second incendiary device, because she knows that the fire actually had 2 origin points. Luna is back at the school study lounge, and Austin is eyeing her. She looks away, and he comes to ask her if she can draw. She denies this, to which he opens her notebook to a really good sketch of the horse. Then Austin asks her to sketch something for him. She then says she can't draw faces well. He then flips the pages to a sketch of his face, to which he seems to already have known about, because he switches to the exact page. Back at the station, Officer Zhang tells Ramsey they found Miller's squad car, not far from the Briggs residence, but they haven't found Miller. But she asks him if this is Miller's standard protocol. Zhang tries to play dumb, but Kristen explains it out to him that did Miller go to the house to threaten Harlan into confessing? Zhang denies this, and Ramsey tells him that their job is to find out who started the fire. He can find Miller on his own time, and when he does find Miller, that he's off the task force, to which Zhang complies. Blake is then shown trying to clean off Luna's number on her arm, and through the door her dad tells her to watch Danny, but rushes out to tell him she can't because she has to work tonight. The dad says he has a meeting with disaster relief services and that they're finally getting out of the motel, and tells her to call out sick and order some food. Blake worries about getting fired, to which her dad says she works at a parking garage, and she's not going to be fired. He also got her a cell phone because he doesn't want her answering the motel phone because he thinks a pervert has been calling. When asked what he said Danny was the one who answered. Blake then asked Danny what the voice on the phone said. Danny doesn't answer. She then pulls away his tablet to see that he wrote the answer down. On the phone, the person said, "You won't survive without them." She then grabs Danny and leaves when her phone starts ringing with no caller ID on the screen. Back at the Briggs residence, Luna is sketching for Austin as he's directing her to sketch what he saw on the highway. She starts hallucinating Austin with a slash on the side of his neck as blood starts dripping onto the page, but she finishes the sketch. Austin tells Luna not to say she believes him, but Luna says she does, because she obviously knows the truth. Much to Austin's dismay, and that if he does see it again, he should run, which terrifies him. Harlan heads back into the club again, and after ordering a drink, spots Cyrus once more. This time, Cyrus looks away first, and when Cyrus turns around, Harlan is right behind him, telling him to say hello when he sees him, to which Cyrus does. We then get to see Blake at her job, the ticketing booth of a parking garage, with Danny sitting in the corner on his tablet. Then we get a rotation of customers taking tickets and parking their cars, to which they come down the stairwell to Blake's right. Garrett finds Luna in the stable recounting an old horse she used to have, that they had to put down because it broke its leg, but that isn't what actually happened to it. Turns out that the horse Luna has been hallucinating all these episodes are from a repressed memory, and the little girl was a young Luna. When she was at that age, her horse sensed something different in her after the night of a full moon, and kicked her. The wolf in her reacted and ripped the horse apart. Since then, Garrett tried to teach Harlan and Luna how to keep the wolf at bay, and they all believed that it had worked, until now. Cyrus sparks up a joint that he and Harlan share. Harlan spots the lighter has the initials of the LAFD, the Los Angeles Fire Department, to which Cyrus points out it belonged to his father, the irony of a firefighter carrying a lighter. Cyrus points out if he wants to hear his tragic backstory or if he wants another hit, and Cyrus teases him by passing the hit from mouth to mouth. And Harlan points out that Cyrus used to have a girlfriend, and Harlan says now he doesn't. Cyrus asks Harlan why doesn't Harlan have a boyfriend, and Harlan says who says he doesn't, and they both start to make out. Back at the parking garage, Phoebe and Tia show up, about to see a movie nearby. Phoebe claims she forgot Blake worked there and makes a joke about Blake slashing her tires, to which Blake denies this. Phoebe compliments her skin, and Tia then invites her to the movies. To Phoebe's dismay, but also Blake is working, so she can't go. Danny then starts messing with Blake's monitor because he wants to watch the news, and then starts to panic. When that happens, Blake tries to calm him down. He hits her, but Blake responds rather well to this, telling him not to hit people, and then hugs him. Then a mysterious van pulls up to leave and just sits there with tinted windows. After a while, the windows crack down and a hand comes out with cash and then speeds off. Danny then makes an offhand comment about being late for a movie, and she realizes the girls never came down. She goes up to check, telling Danny to wait there, and she'll be back in 5 minutes, then locks the booth. She runs upstairs to find the girls hotboxing in their car. Then, back at the box, we see Danny playing on his tablet when he hears the metal outside beginning to scrape. He looks through the glass and sees the alpha walking around on all fours. He then hides on the floor of the box, only to then see Blake coming back downstairs. When she looks in the guard's room, the monitor shows the ticketing booth completely open. Just then, we see Everett at home watching TV when the TV all of a sudden turns into the surveillance monitor from the parking garage. But he also turns around and sees the ticketing booth in his home and just has the feeling that something is wrong. Back at the parking garage, Blake runs back to the ticketing booth, seeing Danny's tablet on the ground, and then runs through every floor of the parking garage, shouting his name, trying to find him, going as far up to the roof and yelling his name off the side while her eyes glow and the yell turns into a howl. She heads back to the ticketing booth and tries to call her father from her work phone. She then starts to cry while she explains that she can't find Danny and that she needs her father to call her back. As she hangs up, her cries stop when she sees Everett show up carrying Danny in his arms in a sort of hero moment. The moment is honestly kind of cheesy, but because I shipped them, I'll give it a pass. She asks Danny where he was, and he shows her a clump of the Alpha's hair in his arms. Blake then questions what Everett is doing there, and he says he heard her. When asked from where, he said his house, and that he thinks he ran all the way there, and just then, Harlan and Luna come running in, because they heard her, and Luna says she didn't scream, she howled. Prisha is then shown dropping off files in Kristen's office, only for Austin to appear behind her so he can drop off the sketch for her board of wolf drawings. Then we see Kristen and Officer Zhang outside the Briggs residence picking up Miller's squad car, to which Kristen then sees a tree nearby dripping in his blood. In the final scene of the episode, we see the Alpha carrying Miller's dead body up the construction site from last week's episode, using 3 of its limbs to climb the scaffolding while holding Miller's body with just 1 of its back legs. Then, as the Alpha is dragging his body through one of the floors, he takes him to an elevator shaft and drops him down onto a pile of bodies, then lands on the body and roars, ending the episode. Okay, another great episode this week. I'm really enjoying this series so far. And good news, bad news, we're only halfway through. This episode was more of a slow burn compared to last week, as we got to see the teens' first day back at school after being bitten, and it doesn't go so well. A couple things to note about this week's episode. Blake starts to dress differently than before. Before, she used to wear hoodies to cover up her face so you couldn't see the acne scars, and now she's just wearing a short sleeve shirt, maybe a crop top, so you can just see her face. Everett also feels more assertive during his conversation with Austin. Austin was noted to be a senior by Kristen Ramsey, but he takes a history class with Everett, Blake, Tia, Phoebe, and Connor, who should all be juniors. So either they're advanced or he's remedial. The weird van that stops in front of Blake at the parking garage, the license plate reads BDSM 754. I don't know if that's a reference to something, but BDSM is definitely something. Don't look it up. The pack connection, while having the upside of sharing abilities, also have the downside of sharing how they feel. As in this episode, Everett's anxiety connects to every single member of the pack. In this show, all the main characters have siblings, as opposed to Jeff Davis's other werewolf show, where most of the main characters were only children. But Everett might as well be an only child, as his other siblings are all older and have gone off to live their own lives. But who knows if they'll make an appearance later on. It seems the one positive scene between Blake and Luna has already made fans start shipping the two as Bluna. But hey, Harlan and Everett haven't had any positive scenes and people still ship them, so who knows. The Alpha, so far, hasn't been killing with a purpose except Officer Miller, so it seems like in Teen Wolf, where they said most animals hunt for food, he seems to be hunting for sport of some kind. I'm a bit confused on why the Alpha took Danny, but he didn't seem to want to hurt him. It seems that he took Danny just so Blake would have a need for the pack, because once Danny was gone, she called out to them and they came running. Alright everyone, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time on the Critic-Verse.